Griff reacted automatically, holding the candle flame under the twine. He burned through the 2 strands, snuffing out the glowing ends. "Stay here," he whispered. "Hide and don't move until one of us comes back for you." Elsa nodded and withdrew into the rear of the pantry. Blowing out the flame, he dropped the candle onto the shelf and grabbed 2 more cans of soup before advancing toward the open doorway. Carefully, he peered around the doorframe to see Nat, struggling in the arms of a thin, unkempt man who held her by the arms. His companion had noticed the twine around her waist and was starting to follow it. He also gripped a shotgun. His plan of action flashed in his mind the same moment he threw the first can of soup at the guy. Because the man's head was down, he never saw it coming, even when the guy holding onto Nat tried to warn him. Unfortunately, it barely grazed the top of the man's hair and struck the side of the island. Griff gave a soft whistle. The man's head jerked around in time for the second can to hit the guy dead center in the face with a dull thunk. Blood spurted from the broken nose. The man cried out and pitched forward, landing face first on the floor. The shotgun discharged again when he fell on top of the weapon, and wood chips exploded into the air from the cabinet to his left. Nat took advantage of her captor's stupefaction, using her heel to kick the man in the shin. The man made a woofing sound and bent over in reaction. It was enough to loosen his grip on her arm, and she jerked it away to turn and punch him in the face with her fist. The man yelled momentarily, releasing her other arm. "Duck!" She dropped to a crouch as Griff launched 2 more cans of soup at her attacker. One cocked him in the forehead. The other slammed into the hand cradling his nose. His legs folded on him, and he fell to his knees. Griff threw himself at the first man, who was showing signs of coming to. He got one hand on the shotgun and rolled, jerking it out from underneath the guy, who tried to hold onto the weapon, but was still too woozy to keep Griff from snatching it away. Pumping the gun, 2 empty shells ejected from the double barrel. It was out of ammo. The weapon was useless, unless the man had more shells on him, which Griff would swear to. For good measure, he butted the side of the man's head once more with the stock to knock him out, before rifling through his vest and pockets for additional ammunition. Nat gave a little cry of surprise. He looked up in time to see her assailant had grabbed her leg and was refusing to let go. She pounded on his head and shoulders with her fists to get the guy to release her, but somehow he managed to hold on. A can of soup lay within reach, a visible dent in the side. Griff stretched out, fighting again the sharp pain in his side from the wound he'd irritated as he snagged it. A tug on his arm told him the shooter had managed to get a hand on the gun's barrel. It was now a tug of war between them for possession. Holding onto the stock, Griff rolled onto his side and was ready to launch the can at Nat's attacker. The world turned hazy, darkened, then lightened to a muted green. Muggy heat surrounded him, nearly stealing all breath from him. Gasping, Griff struggled to get to his knees as something jerked on his arm. He stared in shock at the shooter, who was also staring at their new surroundings. A few feet away, Nat crouched her gaze on him for a second before she turned her head to find the second man clinging to her leg. They'd all gone through the veil together. "Elsa!" Tears sprang up in her eyes, and Griff felt their sting also. Without the child attached to them, the little girl had been hurled God knew where. "What?" The man with his hand on the shotgun fought to regain full consciousness. A jerk relieved him of the gun for good, and Griff shoved it under his arm. Twisting around, he aimed it at the second man, praying the guy wouldn't remember it had been fired twice already. "Let her go!" Seeing the guy's hesitation, he pulled back the hammers. "I said, let her go!"